So now we are going to we're going to basically construct the front panel. So we have our panel that we put our decoration on. We have our front panel top piece and our front panel bottom piece. That's the one with the little squares cut out. Now we're going to lay our front panel top piece right sides together along one of the long sides of our centre panel. Not sure whose teeth I'm wearing today, they certainly aren't mine. And we're just going to clip it in place. And we're going to stitch along that outside edge using a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now for those of you that are bag makers, 3/8 of an inch is fairly normal. For those of you that have come from quilting background, 3/8 of an inch seems massive because you generally use a nice 1/4 inch seam allowance when you're quilting. Most bags have a 3/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Purses often have a 1/4 inch seam allowance to try and reduce the bulk in them. But seam allowances, whilst I'm sure they're very important on clothing, I can't really comment because I've never really made clothing. They are certainly very important on bag making. If you want everything to go together the way it should do, then you need to use the appropriate seam allowance. So I'm going to take So I'm going to open this up and finger press it. Now the seam allowance is pointing towards the top of the pouch. I'm not opening that seam allowance. I'm just going to finger press it initially, and then I'm going to get my iron and give it a really good press. And then I'm going to top stitch along the edge of the fold, but on the top panel, not on the central panel. And again, I'm going to top stitch at 1/8 of an inch. I will do and would normally do 2 lines of top stitching just because I like top stitching. It's something that I think I'm good at, so I tend to do it as much as I can because the show off in me likes it. I think we all tend to do things that if we do something well, we like to do it and show it off, because it's always nice when people say, oh, isn't that clever? So I'm going to do 1 line, and then I'm going to go a second line 1/8 of an inch away from my first line. I also think that adding a second line of top stitching just frames the decoration that we've done on this pouch. There we go, look at that. See? That's why I do top stitching, because I like it. So I'm going to take our second panel, and this is our bottom panel, and we're going to let it to match up this long straight edge, so not the one with the corners cut out, and we're going to lay it right sides together with the bottom of this central panel. So, and we're going to clip it in place. It would appear my dog is doing something he shouldn't be doing because there's shouting going on in the other room, and we're going to stitch that in place using a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance once again. Just back stitch a few stitches at the beginning and the end to secure everything. Stop your stitches unravelling, that would be bad. And again, taking this panel, the bottom panel, away from the central panel and leaving the seam allowance pointing towards the bottom of the pouch. Fold that bottom panel out, finger press it, and then get your iron on it. Now I'm using a sort of a medium weight denim for this, but you could use your quilting weight cottons. You could use a curtain type fabric, a mid-weight upholstery fabric. We haven't yet added any additional stabilizer, and what fabric you use on the outside will impact on what you want to use as your stabilizer. So I'll give you some advice on that in the next video. And again, I'm just top stitching on that bottom panel 1/8 of an inch away from the fold, and then I'm going to do my second line of top stitching to match the top stitching on the top. There we have our front panel completed. I'm going to wipe off all these chalk marks that I've made, and I will come back to you with the next video, which will be talking about what we add to give our pouch standy uppiness. Because if we make it, we could make it just, I mean, this is denim, so it's actually got a bit of oomph to it. But if we've made it in just quilting cotton with the woven interfacing on the back, sometimes it can feel a bit gutless. So we're going to look at, I'll have a little look and show you the difference between foam and fusible fleece. And Freddie, I am busy. Come on, out.
I need my phone.
Out. It's not funny. So I can show you the difference between fusible fleece and foam. One will be gives more structure than the other, but it will depend on your previous sewing experience and your machine's capability to sew. Foam can be quite thick and quite challenging to sew. So we'll have a look at that in the next video.